A recap of today's Days of Our Lives, April 18, 2025. So, we have to go to the meat and the potatoes of the episode, right? Which is Xander finding out that Philip double crossed him from Vivian, and then Philip finding out from Vivian that, she double crossed him. So he comes over there with his tail tucked in between his tail, between his legs, and you know, of course, Xander is seeing red. And earlier, he was talking to Sarah, and Sarah was like, "What's going on? He's been betrayed by Philip. He can't believe that Philip and Vivian were doing it behind his back." And of course, Sarah's looking guilty as ever, just standing there, right? And I just get so infuriated with her in the scene because she just stands there, does absolutely nothing, right? And Philip comes there, and Xander's like, did you see Vivian? And he said, yeah, just run into Vivian. And he's like, she tell you that you forged a letter and all that? So he's like, yeah. And he's like, are you gonna deny it? And he's like, no, I'm actually here to just really answer any questions you may have. And he said, okay, point blank, like, why did you do it? Like, how did you do it? Like, he said, honestly, he was out of his mind when he was going through his mental illness. He was out of his mind. He lost everything. And he's like, Vivian said to him, hey, reclaim what is rightfully yours at Titan and all that. Get a new leash on life. And he started believing it, and that's why he came there and did that. But after time, he actually enjoyed working with Xander, and Xander said the same thing. Like, at first he was like, he finally get control of the company, finally got what he deserved. Victor did not see him as an equal or anything like that, and he finally got control of the company to share it with Philip. At first, he was like gonna fight him tooth and nail for it. And over time, because of Sarah and how Sarah was helpful, and she's just standing there, and I'm just rolling my eyes because it's like Sarah really didn't do much to this. But anyways, he's saying thanks to Sarah, he saw the benefit of working with him, and he really thought that he had a true close brother. And Philip just stabbed him in the back, and he's just disappointed. And I'm really proud of this scene because Xander, being how he is, he would definitely be hands and face first without really talking through things. He controlled his emotions really well, and I'm saying Sarah saw the least in him because Sarah thought he was gonna be aggressive and all of that. She did not give him the benefit of the doubt, and he handled himself really maturely here. And Philip, I honestly, at first, I thought he was a pompous jerk in the beginning, and I wanted him to be fondled so badly. But, when he came there and he, gave the sincere apology, and, it was really heartfelt, and I really hope that they can work it out, because if they're gonna be apart, like, it's not gonna be good for business, and the mayor and everything, like, it's gonna go to hell, right? So if they can look past that and really just work it out and work as better, because I really enjoyed seeing them together, work together over time. It was really good. So if they could just work past that, that would be awesome. But he left, because Xander told him to pack his things and leave. And Xander's like, I can't believe, Philip would betray me like that. Sarah saying that she's sorry that it happened, and he's like, you don't have no need to be sorry. What you need to be sorry for? Like, you weren't the one that betrayed me. And she was like, there. And I'm saying Philip definitely points for him because he didn't rat Sarah out or Stephanie or anything like that. He didn't implicate those people, and he could have just said Sarah was in on it. And it's like he said him and Vivian were the only two people, and kudos to him, right? He got a lot of points today. So JJ and Sean are there. They're talking about Gabby being the new suspect in the EJ shooting case, and JJ is just confiding in Sean about how it's just really messy that he had to question his girlfriend if she was, the person that could have done it, and it didn't went well. So he was just filling him in on everything, and how, he doesn't know what that means for them personally, right? So Sean said, it's really bad when you are related to half of the people in this town, or you have some personal connection to, suspects and criminals and all that. So it's really messy, right? You don't want to be personal towards them, right? You have to be doing your job. And JJ is just worried how it's gonna be if she's not found out to be the suspect, what that means for the relationship. So it's like, hopefully we can really find out, if she's really behind it or not. So speaking of Gabby, she is thinking about the whole thing that went down with JJ, and Melinda comes in. Of course, she's packing away her things because Xander gave her the boot. She told Gabby about it, and yeah, Gabby heard about it. So she said that she wanted to get her things before she sued them, a massive lawsuit and all that. So Gabby's like, speaking of that, I think I would like you to represent me, as my attorney. So she's like, for what? So she said, let's just say that my detective boyfriend suspect me to be the shooter behind the EJ Demera case, and I really need legal representation, right? So Melinda is on board with that. So she's saying to her, I can represent you, but the only thing is that you have to stay away from JJ professionally and personally, right? You can't be connected to him in any way, and I would have to be the one to like answer the question and all that. I don't want to know if you did actually shoot EJ. That's something that I need to not know so that I can defend you better in court. And that was really it with them. So Melinda goes over to JJ and she's telling JJ, like, look, any more questions that you want to ask my client, you have to direct them to me. I'm now her attorney, right? So you need to not be questioning her without me, right? So anyways, Sean comes in and Sean is like, I have some questions for you. So he's like, how come we found your gun in a trash can in the square, right? So she's like, I don't know, like, it wasn't me. So she was like, Shaggy, it wasn't me. I loaned it to somebody else. So she tells them directly that it was Ava that she loaned it to. She doesn't know how it ended up in the wastebasket. So that she can't really tell, right? So she said, if you don't have any more questions, I'm going to leave. So JJ said, not so fast. Like, you're under arrest. So she's like, for what? So he's like, how did you, as a district attorney, as a member of the court, right? How come you just loaned the gun to somebody who just did a stint in Baby? Were you aware of that? So she's like, I wasn't really privy to that. I had a lot of things going on, and it's like, we wouldn't be in this mess if you guys, falsely arrested Christy, and that will have to be looking for a job and all that. So it's like, JJ says, let's stay on topic, right? At the end of the day, like, you loaded to somebody that was in a mental institution, and you should have known better, right? So she's like, are you guys really gonna arrest me? So he's like, no, not for now, but I'd advise you not to leave town. So she leaves, and again, they're at square one. And I don't really think that JJ and Sean are cut off for this detective thing. Neither is Jada, but this is the Salem PD we're talking about. Like, I think Steve could have done a better job, honestly. So Rafe is there with his thumb drive that he picked up from the Mirror Mansion, because remember some weeks ago that he was, trying to get some dirt on EJ to see if he will confess about what he did to him all these months ago, right? So he was about to, plug it in and look what's on it, and he gets a knock at the door, and it's Sammy. So Sammy's coming in and telling him that she's about to leave town again. Again, it's a brief stint. You know how Sammy comes in and comes out. She blows like the wind. So she's telling him that she's leaving, and she said, you're always invited to come over, right? So he's like, it's tempting, but I can't do that, right? So she's like, I'm glad I didn't cause any drama this time. And he's like, I don't think so. I mean, I did talk to Jada, and I told her, I got to see her side of the story, and I also told her that, we slept together as a result. So, she was furious, she needed some space, and now we're just back at square one. So she's like, why would you even tell her? Like, you shouldn't have told her that, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, you guys both did some mistakes. You guys are even. So he's like, I told her that, but now she just really wants space. So she's like, you can do some gestures, some flower candy, or, do a video apologizing to her and all that. So, she was trying to help him, but he wasn't really down with that. So he's like, it will work itself out somehow. And she's like, you deserve to be happy, and I wish you the best. And, I definitely enjoyed my time with you. It was a stressful visit, talking to Johnny and then the EJ thing. So I was really glad to meet up with you, and he's glad to have been of help to her. So she wished him the best, and then that's when she left. So there was a nasty showdown with Vivian and Gabby, because Vivian was on the phone talking to one of her relatives about how she's, gonna see Stefan. Stefan is not really mad at her, can't be mad at her, even though she kidnapped him and, forged his signature on the divorce papers. But, she, in her mind, think it was good to rid him of Gabby, and, she's just, ready to get out of Salem. So Gabby comes over and she's like, Gabby, how unpleasant to see you, right? So she's like, I heard my name. What are you up to? So she's like, it's just local gossip I'm doing. So she's like, oh, yeah, really now. If you're trying to, like, come and do any revenge against me, like, you need to step back or fall back a few, right? So she's like, I'm not afraid of you. Or, like, I'm just glad that Stephen, divorced you and just go on with his life, right? So she's like, you're such a miserable bee and all of that. So she's like, oh, same to you, whatever. So she leaves her, right? Because she has nothing much to say to her. So Sammy is on her way out, on her flight, and she runs into Vivian, who's also coincidentally on the same flight to Europe. Same seats, different seats, 1A, 1B. And, I'm surprised these two are really friendly, because nobody's really friends with Vivian in this town. So, Vivian is happy about that. And she's like, we're going to catch the same ride. We have a lot to discuss and all that. And that's where the episode ended. But it was really nice to see this, because I've never known that Sammy and Vivian were really cool in any way, right? But that was it for today's episode. I really wish Sarah would have been outed today. Honestly, Philip was really noble on that, but really good scene between Xander and Philip. Best scene of the day, of the episode, honestly, for today. Brilliant. But that was it, guys. Don't forget to like it, follow, subscribe to my channel. Comment below your thoughts on today's episode. I will see you guys next week.